friends, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to review The Memory Book by Lara Avery. This is a YA contemporary story about our main character Sammy, or Samantha, who has a rare disease called Niemann-Pick type C. And yes, this is a real terminal illness. I'd never heard of this disease before, but after reading this book, I did look it up on the internet, and I'm going to go ahead and say right off the bat that not everybody agrees with the way that this disease was depicted in this story. I do appreciate that the author did her best, and in her acknowledgments, she also said that she really appreciated the people that have been affected by this disease, letting her thanking you for the liberty to live in your shoes for a few hundred pages. She said to forgive her for any inconsistencies and exaggerations. If the way I told Sammy's story doesn't feel right to me, or better yet, write it the way you would like to see it. And I thought that was great advice, and really nice that she put that in her acknowledgments, like right up front. Like, she's just an author. I'm sure she did some type of research for this, and I believe that every story is a little bit different. And in this particular case, I think that Sammy's story is different because usually the disease is passed on to children and they die as children. But in Sammy's case, she's 18 years old, so she's, in her adolescence. And so we don't have a timeline for Sammy. We don't know, what's going to happen, how fast it's going to happen, or whatever. We just know that there is no cure, and that cognitive functions will slowly dwindle, motor functions will slowly dwindle, and there will be a slow, maybe even a rapid decline. The memory book is essentially Sammy's journal, because one of the main things that NPC does is it causes you to lose your memory, which is very sad for Sammy because she's a high school valedictorian, and she has big dreams and big hopes to go to New York University and do great things in the world. She's also going with her one and only friend Maddie to the nationals for this debate tournament, and of course in debate there's a lot of facts and stuff that you have to remember, and she's just really worried that she's going to start forgetting things. So it's really sad to see Sammy go through this, but I really did enjoy this book. I ended up rating it 4 stars, so I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about it. Maddie is Sammy's only real friend. She is also her debate partner, and she gets to witness Sammy's decline firsthand. There is also a couple of things that I would consider parts of #diversity for this book. The first one being that it does feature this rare disease, NPC, or Niemann-Pick type C. It also has Maddie is actually gay, and one of the crushes that our main character Samantha has, or Sammy has, is a person of color. So I liked that there were several different things in there. There was, the person of color, there was sexual identity, and then there was this rare disease featured. And they were just so seamlessly in there. It didn't seem like made up or thrown in there for it to be diverse. It was just part of the story. The writing itself I thought was average to good. Nothing really stood out to me except for one particular thing, which I'll tell you in just a second. But it was just basically a journal. It was Maddie kind of talking through her day, what was going on, what she expected, what she hoped, talking about her family. She did have siblings and stuff like that, talking about her crushes and things that were happening there. I believe that she handled the NPC well. But that's from a totally outsider's perspective. Like I said, I had never even heard of this disease until I read this book. Now, the one thing that did stick out to me is, of course, the narrative is from Sammy's point of view. She's keeping this memory book on her laptop that she carries with her everywhere. And as her cognitive functions fluctuate, you can tell that in her narrative. So I really felt like I was going on this journey with Sammy, and it just kind of really hit you in the feels, if you know what I'm saying. So as far as the characters go, of course, we have Sammy, our main character. We have Maddie, her one and only friend slash debate partner. She also has a couple of crushes. One is like a neighbor slash childhood friend type, and then another is a guy that she's always had a crush on. She also has their doctors make appearances, as well as like a school counselor, because like I said, Sammy is the high school valedictorian, or she is on that track to become valedictorian. But the cool thing about this is that Sammy's parents and siblings are super present in this book. At first it didn't seem like they were gonna be, but then they like were throughout the book, and it just made it like, I mean, with someone suffering something like that, I was hoping that her family would be present. And they were, both her mother and her father and her siblings, and her siblings were different ages. I think she had an older brother and like two younger sisters. And part of her memory book, she would write about her siblings and like kind of like their biographies according to her, like what they were going to do later in life. And I just thought that was a great addition to her memory book. The setting didn't really stand out. It's more about what our main character is going through and the people that are coming in and out of her life and how she's going to function from day to day. The plot was really centered around Sammy's diary and keeping track of her day to day and the disease and her friendships and her crushes. It was just really like a diary, but it was told to her future self, because she was sure she was going to overcome this and still go on and go to New York University and do all of these great things that she had planned forever. The conflict was the disease itself, but there were also, you know, is she going to win this national debate tournament? Is she going to fall in love and have a boyfriend? You know, things like that were thrown in there as well. As far as the resolution will go, I will just say that NPC is a terminal disease. So inevitably you can imagine what the outcome of this story was. But I will say that there were just moments of beauty in the midst of like this crisis. So I really did, you know, take from those to enjoy what you have when you have it, and, you know, never take anything for granted. So yes, there were some swoon-worthy moments. Yes, there were some heartbreaking moments. Yes, this is, you know, one of those books that's going to rip your heart out, but I really did enjoy it. And I'm not going to say it's like by far one of my favorite books, but also something in my life was happening when I finished the book. And now that that's been resolved, this book even means more to me. But like I said, I rated this book 4 stars, and if you look on Goodreads, it's super loved. Like, a lot of people love this book. It has a very high rating on Goodreads and a lot of great reviews out there. I tried to see like if people outside of the bookish community, people that have experience with NPC, what they thought of it. And I only really saw like 1 or 2 accounts where people saying, oh, it's nothing like that. But I don't know if they were just, they didn't give any reasons why it wasn't like a good account or anything like that. So I'm not really sure about the representation of the Niemann-Pick type C, but it was really about, it didn't have to be that particular disease. It just was about a terminal disease that this one character had to live with, and how she lived her life from the time that she was diagnosed until, you know, the end of the book. And it was heartwarming, but heartbreaking and swoon-worthy, and just, it was everything. I laughed. One thing that I really loved about Sammy is, since she was, you know, diagnosed with this terminal illness, when these crushes would like say things to her, and usually, you know, girls in YA novels would be like, oh, you know, whatever. Like, she would ask for what she wanted. She's hanging out with a guy, and he asks her if he can kiss her on the cheek. And she says, is that standard? And the guy's like, is that standard for what? And she's like, a standard goodbye for what we, you know, for what just happened. And for what just happened, I mean, what we did today hanging out. And he's like, we don't have to categorize it. And she's like, no, let's categorize it. Let's, you know, what are we doing here? I don't have time to play games. And I just really loved it. She's like, no, let's do categorize it. There was another moment like that as well that really stood out. She's watching a movie with her family, and she texts this guy and says, you working? And he says, yes, what's up? And she asks him, am I your girlfriend? And he says, the title of your memoir will be Sammy McCoy, Cutting to the Chase. And then she's like, seriously though, am I? And he says, let's talk about it in person later tonight when I get off. And she's like, I can't. I'm with my family tonight. And he's like, oh, okay, tomorrow? She goes, okay. But if you were to give me a short answer now, what will it be? So she kind of presses the issue like, okay, we can talk about it in person, but I want an answer right now. And I really love like the forwardness of her, and I wish like more women and young girls were like that. So I really did appreciate that she had those qualities, and I'm sure it was because of her disease a little bit maybe, but I think it was just also part of her personality. But yeah, that's my review of The Memory Book by Lara Avery. I hope you have a chance to check it out if you haven't already. I thought it was a really good read, and it went fairly quickly. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you again in my next video. Bye!